How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today we are looking at the crypto market, taking a look at the stock market, some of the top news. We're going to talk about stocks. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about news from Powell and Biden, also some EU news. Also looking at what large institutional investors are doing, taking a look at BNB and Luna and Cardano. There's so much that we're covering here today. If you don't mind hitting the like button and subscribe button, I appreciate that. It helps out the channel a lot. There's also a link down there to BlockFi, where you can get up to a $250 bonus when you start depositing your crypto, and you get access to this awesome credit card that gives you crypto back. So definitely check that out underneath the video. It's a good way of continuously buying the dip without having to actually put money in. Now, the crypto market's looking much better today. If we look here, we're at $1.32 trillion. Now, if we looked a couple months ago and said, hey, we'd be at $1.32 trillion, people would have been freaked out. But, yesterday's capitulation is today's hopium. So right now people are wondering, is it too late to buy, right? Bitcoin's at 32,000. Is it too late to buy? But when you look at where we've been, right, this is much lower than we were all of last year, essentially, right? I mean, we had a couple moments where we fell down to these levels last summer, but we had such a large pump last spring that these numbers, the prices that you're paying now, are very cheap compared to what we've seen over the last year. Now, with that in mind, we do have some news that might actually cause some commodities to continue to rise. EU is now banning oil. They have an oil embargo that says that it's going to ban most of Russia's oil imports by the end of the year. And Russia is now saying that they'll find someone else to take their oil from them and to buy it. Now, this is kind of in a way to support Ukraine, but Ukraine has said this is too little too late coming from the EU. Now, they specifically were a little bit cautious because a lot of them do get oil over from Russia, and they didn't want to have this massive shortage of oil any more than they already did, because a lot of them are paying much higher than we are here in the US still for things like gas and gasoline. Biden is also talking with the Fed today, which is interesting. We got this news, I believe it was yesterday, that Biden was going to be talking with Jerome Powell, and he's just talking about inflation in the economy, and he said that he will continue to pledge independence towards Powell and towards the Fed. He's not going to try to push them in any one direction, just wants to talk about the economy and stuff like that. I don't believe that. I think he's trying to push Powell to lay off a little bit towards the midterm elections, just so that we don't have the stock market fall down for another 6 months leading into those, because I think it will be difficult for the Democrats already. That's just my opinion. I'm not talking about anything political here, but obviously the Democrats want the stock market to turn around a little bit before those elections. So it'll be interesting. We won't hear anything out of this, I don't think, but we already know the next couple rate hikes are 50 basis points, but maybe they will start to calm down a little bit and go down to 25 basis points after that. Now, with all this happening, the stock market is looking a little bit sideways today. I mean, NASDAQ's up a bit. The Dow and the S&P 500 are down a bit, just a little bit. But we're actually seeing some green in crypto. You can see Bitcoin's over 32,000 for the first time in a couple weeks. And this is after 9 weeks of red on Bitcoin. So you can see this is the most that we've ever had in a row in terms of weekly red candles. Now we're seeing a little bit of a green candle. The rest of the crypto market is doing a little bit better as well. I mean, some cryptos are up significantly, but some are still lagging behind Bitcoin, like Ethereum and BNB, XRP. But we do have some pretty big movers like Cardano, which we'll talk about here in a moment, and then a couple other ones further down the list as well, like Near and some other cryptos. Now, speaking of cryptos, let's take a look at the Fear and Greed Index. We can see here that we are at 16. We're still extreme fear. However, this is much better than we were just yesterday, which was a 10, and last week we were around an 8. This might just be, in some people's minds, a relief rally in the short term, but Will Clemente, analyst, is saying that this might be, well, it is getting close to a generational buying opportunity. What he says exactly is the long-term holder cost basis is rising as short-term holder cost basis declines. If this persists and short-term holders crosses below long-term holders, long-term being 1 year or longer. Historically, this is marked generational buying opportunities. We are getting close, and you can see where we've gotten this in the past. Back in 2019, we had a generational buying opportunity. Back in 2015, we had a generational buying opportunity. Now we're getting close to the next one. Now it still would take a little bit longer at these prices to happen, and we might actually have to dip a little bit lower as well, but we have to remember that as we dip further and further, the short-term holders get lower and lower prices, making it more and more likely that we do cross and we get that generational buying opportunity. Now, we might not actually get there. There are several points where we never got that, like in 2020, right? We had dipped significantly. You can see the price dip, but we never dropped down where short-term holders were then underneath the long-term holders. Now we have to remember that there's a lot more money in crypto now than there were in the past cycles, and there's a lot more building that's happening than in the past cycles. Like Fidelity just announced that they're going to double their group that works with digital assets. So they're going to plan on adding 110 employees in tech roles, including engineers and developers. They were really early on in crypto, dabbling in it back in 2014. CZ is still helping too. Binance is still helping adoption. They just had this deal with the UAE. This is for 29 shopping malls, 13 hotels, and 4 mixed-use communities now accepting Binance Pay. So they're accepting crypto now. And DeFi is still growing. So what's interesting about this is we look at this and it looks like it's just fallen off a cliff, right? From like 250 billion in TVL down to 110. But if you look at a lot of these cryptos specific to their chain, and then you look at not USD value, but their actual token value, you can see that we're still growing. Like from this time last year, right? We've actually grown in TVL in terms of Ethereum. And this happens with a lot of the other cryptocurrencies. There are a few that are minor exceptions like BNB. But if you go over to Tron, we still have a lot more tokens staked here. We have more on Avalanche as well. Solana is still growing as well. So you can see a lot of tokens and a lot of projects are still growing in TVL. It's just that because their price has been hit so hard, they don't really show it when you look at just the USD value. Now, I want to move on from that and take a look at what institutional investors are buying, because we had the new digital asset fund report, and this came in with $87 million worth of inflows. Now, this is not the largest amount of inflows, but you can see there's only been 1 week recently over the last really 2 months that has seen more inflows than this. A lot of money flowing into Bitcoin, about 70 million. Still 12 million coming out of Ethereum. A lot of money has come out of Ethereum this year, maybe just because they realize that they're possibly better layer ones, or they think that it's overinflated compared to the other layer ones, or they think that with the merge coming there's going to be a lot unlocked, or maybe it's just normal allocation changes because Ethereum has held up better than a lot of these other smaller cryptos. You can see some money is flowing into Solana. They have had a lot flowing into it this year. We have some money flowing into multi-asset. This has been a constant theme as well. And then we actually have 22.1 million going into another asset, and that's Algorand. For some reason, Algorand got $22 million worth of inflows. They said maybe it's due to the fact that one of these products introduced Algorand in it, and that caused them to rebalance a bit. Now, moving on to Cardano. Cardano is up a significant amount today. It's up about 17%. Now, I've heard a couple different reasons why this is. Most likely it's because of a new bridge with Ethereum. Now, I was looking up Cardano and I looked and found this. Cardano's Hoskinson says, Luna collapse shows need to go slow in crypto. Now, I think a lot of us got hurt by the UST collapse, Anchor collapse, and then also with Luna. But it's interesting to see him talk about this. And you can read this. It basically is just saying that we need to be very careful, because if you move too fast, then everyone loses their money, which is interesting because Cardano is one of the slowest chains out there. And this is probably a good moment for them to be saying, hey, that's why we have everything peer reviewed. Even if we move slower, at least we're not losing all our value like in something like Luna, which is hyped up and then just crashes. You have a ton of people losing a ton of money. So this might be a bullish point for Cardano, that maybe if they move a little bit slower over the coming months and coming years, they can continue to point back at Luna and say, hey, we move slowly, but there's a good reason for that. Now, speaking of Luna, we did get the token airdrop last week, at the end of last week, and the price of Luna has been pushing up recently. We're up 32% in the last 24 hours, which is interesting. I thought this would dump off pretty heavily because it just got put on Binance. The airdrop just happened, so I figured a lot of people would be just dumping their tokens, but apparently not so far. Now, it has around a $2 billion market cap, which it says it's around 2,800 in terms of market cap, but that's not correct. If we go over to the top 100, it would be in the top 35. It would be just ahead of ApeCoin, which is really interesting and shows that, hey, there's still a community there. Now, I sold my tokens last week because I see a lot of people going to get tokens, right? The fully diluted market cap's 9.4 billion. So I see a lot of people looking to dump this off, but I could always be wrong. Some of the projects are also migrating to other chains like Polygon. I covered that news last week. They actually have a really large fund for these Luna developers. But let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video. Are you interested in Luna? Let me know what do you think about some of the adoption news, some of the news with Powell and Biden meeting. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.